for having me. I've talked to Cody in person before, but I haven't talked to you, Sebastian. And I always have to fill a disclaimer. I'm kind of anxious and awkward, so thank you for dealing with me before we begin.
No, there's nothing to apologize for. You have no idea, like how, like I was waiting, like I was like really excited for today. Like, no need to feel awkward. It's the feeling is very mutual.
I'm just awkward in life, like at the grocery store, just in public. I'm just kind of awkward.
We are too. So
Right.
it's
Thank you, Cody.
Very good company. Good company.
Yeah. Oh, wait, I'm getting kind of a feedback. I'm getting a feedback. Are you guys getting feedback?
Not really, no.
I don't know. Say something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here, hold on. Let me.
Yeah. Let's see.
What about now?
Okay, now let's try. Oh, okay. I think I'm okay now. I think.
Okay, I turned down the volume on you guys, and the feedback seems. So maybe just let me see. Okay, how about now?
Oh, sounds good.
I think I'm good.
Okay, I just want to make sure I can hear you guys. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay. There we go. Goddamn antivirus thing is running right when I'm trying to do this. Motherfucker. There we go. All right, here we go. Yeah, I'm sure you know that I can sort of speak openly, honestly with you. You know I've kind of got a hard edge, so yeah. All right, so let's introduce our guest. This is Lauren Sapala, author of several books. I'm such a fucking asshole. I forget Between the Shadow and Low, and then I think it's West of San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got a bunch of other. I can still hear that thing. I can hear my own fucking voice back at me. I can still hear that. Cody, can you?
I can hear it now, but I'm not sure what the issue is.
Let me see.
I'm blaming Ted Cruz for all the problems we're having just because I can.
No, I'm wondering if it's my volume, but I want.
Okay, maybe, I don't know. Wait a minute.
I have you turned down pretty low now.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I think it's good now. I don't hear any feedback or whatever, so.
Okay, good.
Okay, good.
Can you
so
say something louder? Just say something loud.
I gotta try to be quiet. I gotta, I would, but yeah, I don't want to disturb my neighbor not because I like him, fuck him, but I don't want him to all of a sudden get fresh ideas to blast his fucking bass music again. Then I gotta threaten him again.
Okay.
And I get tired of that. Like I don't know where you live, but I live in a place where like the minute you walk out the door, you have to be prepared, right? You have to like size these fucking people up and be like, all right, do I got to smash this piece of shit? Do I got to go? And so like whatever problems I can avoid, because I kind of live in like the white ghetto, like, so yeah, I try to just stick to myself and whatever, so I don't have as many problems. But if people are wondering, if anybody watches wondering why I have this way about me, it's just because it's like I've got to be prepared for battle in some sort at like all moments, because I never know. Like I hear gunshots sometimes. Like I hear gunshots on the regular, which is, I mean, again, not for anybody to feel fucking sorry for me. I'm not saying that, but Yeah, but anyway, that's derailing the point. The point is you, which is you've written Between the Shadow and Low,
I forgot.
West of San Francisco, and then you've also got some, I think, writing magic. I think, isn't that?
Yeah, they're. See, I got the. Should I just talk quietly?
You're doing fine. You're doing great. I can hear you.
Okay, because I got the feedback. Did you guys get the feedback?
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm not.
I didn't.
It's not there now.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm gonna like tame my natural exuberance. Yes, I have 3 other books. One's a writing guide, one's a personality theory book, and one's a marketing book.
Yeah. Those do really well, the latter 3. When I looked up, it's too bad that like your first 2, your transgressive fiction books aren't doing better. But I guess that doesn't sell well unless you're like ripping off Nabokov, like somebody we might know.
Well, I think too, it's sort of part of the marketing game. Like my nonfiction books sell because I market them, and self-help, how-to writing guides. I've got a YouTube channel, social media. So I bring more people. I don't really market my fiction. But I'm not
Why?
really trying to sell my fiction. Honestly, I don't really care if my fiction sells. It's just for me. That might sound weird. I mean, I like it when someone buys
It
a
doesn't
book.
make sense. That doesn't make sense to me.
Oh, it doesn't? Like that it's just for me?
No.
Oh. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of like giving birth to a baby and then the baby grows up and then I send it out into the world and it's doing its own thing. And people might interact with that child or they might not, but it's not like it doesn't feel like mine anymore.
Okay.
I get it.
Yeah.
I don't get. I
Fun.
don't get it. But okay.
The ones I'm still working on feel like mine. The ones I'm still writing feel like that's mine. But once I put something on Amazon, it's like it's over. It's done.
Okay. Just different mindsets. Cody can attest to I spam social media like a motherfucker with promotion. I don't know. I guess for me, it's I want my stuff to do well, not because I think I'm gonna make money. Like, I mean, there are no Stephen Kings around anymore. But I don't know. I mean, I, I think for me personally, I would want to do it just so that somebody else can, like when I write something, it's hopefully somebody will feel less alone, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that it'll have some kind of an impact. So, like when I wrote my poetry book, which is, by the way, you gotta tell me how you want me to sign this for you so I can send this off. You gotta tell me like, you can send me a message or an email, but I owe you a copy and I'll sign it how you want. Um, people have reported that it was like brutal, and you said, I mean, thank you first of all for your wonderful blurb that you gave. But I think we can all think back to those stories that when we were in like a really bad way. And my hope is just somebody picks up some of my shit and is like, and it doesn't help them, right? Because I don't believe in that. I mean, sorry, I don't mean to step on, but I don't believe in the whole narcissistic self-help bullshit. But I do believe in helping people, making people feel less alone. Like I remember I was in a dark way and I read some Kafka and I'm like, wow, like it's okay to do that, or Legati, or like, wow, it's okay to really be a full throttle nihilist. And you know what I'm saying? So like, I'm hoping somebody picks up, my poetry book or anything else, and is like, okay, it's okay to write this way. It's okay to feel this way. And there's a comfort to that, right? Like, there's a comfort to being like, it's okay to be different. It's okay to be an outsider. It's okay if society doesn't accept the way that you are because society sucks dicks, right? Anyway, but I'm talking way too much, so I'm going to shut up and let you interject because you're our guest.
No, that I think I just put something together when you said all that, because you were like, that's weird that when I was like, I just write for myself. Like once it's out there, it's out there. I think we're doing the same thing, but I'm getting my fulfillment in that same vein through like teaching and coaching, because I teach classes and I talk to a lot of people every week and basically do therapy sessions with them. So that's where I'm putting that kind of energy, where I am working with people where I'm like, you're not alone and you're not weird and there are different perspectives.
Okay.
So with my fiction, I'm sort of like, oh, okay, yeah, and I guess that's there too. Like I think you're writing, you have a calling as an artist, and I have more of a calling as a teacher. I engage in the artist stuff, but it's not my main calling. I feel like it's your main calling. Does that make sense?
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, that makes sense. I get it. Yeah, I think you've connected the pieces really. Yeah. Okay, good.
I think also just looking at our two types, not even like personality, but like archetypes. I mean, you've got really strong warrior energy. That's really apparent. So you approach life as a warrior. And I've got like sage, more like teacher, performer, even a little bit storyteller, you know. So I am doing more of like, I want to work with like groups of people and teach and storytell in that way. And you are like, I'm in the trenches, I'm fighting every day, like this is bullshit, let's really like kind of cut through the red tape that we need to cut through, right? Warriors are very good at cutting through red tape. So we're each bringing that to it as well. You're like a warrior writer.
Yeah, the confession. So a confession is that I hate that. Does that
You
make
hate being a
sense?
warrior?
Absolutely.
Oh, why?
Fighting isn't fun. Battling people isn't fun. I never got any enjoyment. I'll tell you a story. There was two separate occasions. So the reason that I approach life is as I view it as war, is not because that's the way that I like it, but I don't believe in magic. So I don't think that people are just going to do you. I've been stabbed in the back before, right? Cody and I have been stabbed in the back by the same fucking guy, we can, you know, you know him, and I met him through you. And so it's not fun to have to fight people. It's not fun to, like when I was a kid, I was bullied, right? And this is why I think when people, they give all the wrong advice when you see a bully, right? They always in schools, from what I've heard, it's like, oh, let's sit down, let's talk. That's not how it's going to work. Here's how you deal with a bully. You take a cue from Machiavelli, which is if violence must be done, do it to such a severity to not fear retribution. So the first bully I had, slammed him up against a tree, cracked him in the fucking nose. Blood shot out. He fell down. I kicked him. Then I said, if you ever touch me again, I'm going to come back to your house with a fucking knife and I'm going to kill you and your whole fucking family.
Mm-hmm.
He saw me, he ran the other way. But you know what he didn't do? He never fucked with me again. Some other kid in school was bullying me. So I waited till he was alone by the lockers. I slammed his fucking head into the locker, same fucking thing. And I slammed the door on his fucking head. And I said, you ever touch me again, I'm going to bring a knife next time, motherfucker. Now, I didn't feel good about any of that, but it solved the problem. So it solved the problem. It's not fun when I have to call my landlord 50 fucking times to get them to do something. It's not fun that I have to threaten people. It's not fun. I don't find any enjoyment out of battle. And anybody who does is probably a sociopath. It's a laceration on the soul. But unfortunately, we live in a world of used car sales, hucksters, charlatans, right? And those are the people that gain fame. So on the one hand, we have the fucking Jordan Petersons on the one hand, who are just pure charlatans, to the Deepak Chopras, right? So one's selling capitalist bullshit, the other one's selling some mystical magic garbage. And it's just like, can we just think clearly? So no, I mean, I think so for anybody listening, it's not fun. It's not cool. It takes a toll on a person. Cody can probably attest to that too, right? I mean, Cody, you fought with your boomer landlord, or not landlord, your boomer neighbor.
Huh.
You fight with people too. There's no fun.
No.
So that's a very mature warrior mindset. Young warriors tend to think fighting is fun. Mature warriors don't like battle, but like you said, I had to do it.
Yeah.
Right? I had to use this Machiavelli strategy for a reason. And mature warriors do tend to be very logical and cold in that way. And I don't mean cold in a bad way, but calculated. Like, I have to perform this action so that this will happen. It's cause and effect. And I don't want to, and it's not fun, but this is the way it has to be. So that's the mature warrior. Cody, I would say, actually is a scholar. And Sebastian, you're a scholar too. You've got scholar archetype stuff. But Cody, you definitely are a scholar.
Okay.
Quiet, stoic, reads everything, soaks it all up.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Few words.
I mean, there is a way for people to actually diffuse situations, where you can use fear to your advantage. So, like if you're in a situation, right, you can use, and I learned this when a goose charged me once. And like, I can take out a goose, that's not a problem. But the problem is, but at what cost? It's gonna peck me, it's gonna hurt me in some way. So I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I was sitting out on my step and I was smoking, and some guy comes up and he goes, give me a cigarette. And I go, there's a cigarette store down there. I'm not a cigarette store, motherfucker. And he's like, and he threatened me. So the first thing you have to do is get right in their face and say, and you can be totally honest with them about this. You can say, you're stronger than me. You're clearly going to win this battle. But here's what I'm going to do first. I'm going to go right for the eye sockets. You might be blind. You're a man. I'm going to go right for the fucking nutsack. And I'm going to take out, and you will win. I guarantee you will win. You're stronger than me. But I'm going to exact as much pound of flesh before I go down. Now, you have to ask yourself, am I worth it? Am I worth it over a cigarette? Just go walk to the fucking store. And he walks away. You can do that by just being completely honest. And then they realize, you know what? Maybe fucking with this person ain't the right strategy. And he walked away because he knew I wasn't worth it.
Have you ever thought about teaching self-defense?
No.
You'd be good at it.
I wouldn't.
Why do you say that?
Because a lot of people think that they look down on violence, and I think that violence is a solution to many problems. I think that laws get in the way of otherwise. So I'm not one of those. So I took karate as a kid, and anybody who's taken karate knows that the purpose of it is not fighting; it's the discipline, right? That the fighting is that's just but that you never have to use it. Where I think it's like, I don't know. And plus, I don't really know how to. I mean, I'll readily admit I don't really know how to fight. I know how to like. I know how to position myself in a situation where if it was formal, right? Like if I'm going toe to toe, I'm going to lose. But if you give me some time to think it out, I can position myself. Hence why with the bully, like I mentioned, I waited until I caught him alone. I looked around the schoolyard. I looked around, make sure nobody was watching, right? And that was planning. It was a couple of weeks had gone by, and I had to make sure nobody could see before I sent him to the nurse's office. So what would I teach? It's just read Machiavelli and don't be afraid to use violence. I mean, I know that Machiavelli gets a bad rap, but here's the thing. In the political sphere, it's horrible. But when you live in fucking hell, that's how you survive. Like, heck, have you read the 48 Laws of Power?
No, I've heard of them. Is it Robert Greene?
Robert Greene. It's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, anything by Robert Greene is well worth it, right? I mean, it's banned in it's banned in prisons. It's been called like, I mean, he's like a modern day Machiavellian, right? And you read the 48 Laws, and you're like, some of them can be used. You can obviously use them for nefarious ends, but Robert Greene is a very keen, scholar of human nature, and he doesn't give a kind of rosy picture, right? Like if you read the Laws of Human Nature, actually, he says like everybody feels envy, right? And pretty much don't trust anybody who doesn't. It's what do you do with it, right? He says everybody's a narcissist. It's just a matter of degree. And it's that kind of realistic look at the human condition, right? And I can look back and I can say, yeah, sure, I feel envy, but do I use that to try to fuck people over? No. I just think, oh, okay, I want to do better than that, right? Like I'll give you a good case. Like, and I told Cody this, and I think it's on Cody's reading list, but I finished the other day, Tender is the Flesh, which,
You emailed me about that.
oh, it's gonna fuck your shit up. You read that? Oh, I'm pressuring Cody to read it because I want to talk about the ending, but because the ending it fucks with you. It really does. And not to mention, like, it's so well written. Like, I finished it and I'm like, this ruined fiction for me. Like, it's so good. How could I ever read something as good as this? How could I ever write anything? So I felt envy, but nowhere did I think, oh, I want to find the author and try to destroy her. I thought, how can I do something that at least hopefully gets this close? But no, returning to the point, you know what? My dream is just to live in the country, away from people. It takes a laceration on one's soul, like in the I believe it's the Death Wish movies, right? In the first Death Wish in the 70s,
Mm-hmm.
That's honest, because it was, I forget the guy's name. He commits his first like act of like not revenge, but um like vigilantism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm remembering correctly, he comes home and he vomits. That's the natural reaction, right? Because humans are wired naturally for compassion and connection and all of that. And so when you're disjointed in a way where you have to, I mean, the again, Americans love magic, so we like to think that people are wired for competitiveness and war. But then why do veterans get PTSD? If we're wired for that, that should be great. So whenever these retards, like usually conservatives, say, "Oh, well, war is natural," I say, "Well, listen, I've never gotten PTSD from getting a blowjob. In fact, it was quite fun actually. But then why do people get PTSD from war if it's natural? If it's ingrained in them?" So fucking is natural, right? It's a very ingrained instinct. But if war was an ingrained instinct, then why do so many soldiers who go off to war have drug addiction, they end up homeless, PTSD, right? So everything I'm saying is not to glorify violence. It's just to say you find yourself in a situation where, because either one lost a birth lottery or a whole bunch of unfortunate events, they find themselves in situations where they have to be aggressive. And it's not fun. It's not fun. It's not glorious. It's something that I would, if I never have to yell at somebody, I never have to do I'll never do it again. And that's why I don't get people. I'm sorry for this long. I'm sorry, but this is why I don't get people who go out and they search for fights, right? Like when I see people online and I'm like, why would you do that? It's going to come to you naturally, or maybe it doesn't come to some people. It's just organically. But to me, it's brought on my doorstep, cab fare paid on a daily basis. And I would much rather it not. So I don't get people who look for conflict. I just don't get that. But
Well, I think they're getting something out of it. Maybe there's an energy that's built up inside of them that they're looking to release, and that's the only way to release it. Or they're looking to be powerful or something. They're looking for something. There's an important reason. The people I've known who have been very aggressive and have gone looking for fights, there was some kind of pain inside of them driving them on.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, maybe not everybody. Maybe some people probably are just sociopaths. But I had an ex-boyfriend who got in a lot of fights, and he was all torn up inside. He was just in pain all the time. You wouldn't have known it to see him on the outside, but he was miserable. He was just miserable inside all the time. And I think he saw the violence in his family. I mean, he grew up with violence as well. So there's that piece, right? Like that's what he knew. His dad hit his mom, and his mom hit him and his sister, and so that's what they knew.
Yeah.
But it's in all of us,
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm high strung, but I'm not a violent person. But I have a child, and I've learned through having a child that sometimes I can be driven to violence in my mind, where I'm like, wow, I think I have to walk away, or I'm going to punch the wall and break my hand right now because this 6-year-old has driven me to the brink. So I think it also, I mean, the other thing, this is not an excuse, but when I had a newborn, I realized how insane you can get on sleep deprivation.
Uh-huh.
And I think of that with a lot of like the random acts of violence in society. It's like, you don't know if that person's just been withdrawing from Ambien, or if they're on, opioids, or they're like on a bunch of Starbucks. Like so many people are like, there's alcohol and caffeine and sleeping pills and insomnia. So you can get to a place physically with your brain where you're just like absolutely nuts. The first month I had my son, I was like, I was so crazy. I thought that I had photographs of random family members around my house, as people do, and I kept thinking that the eyes in the photographs were following me, and that the faces were like laughing at me behind my back. Like when I turned, I was like, I think my dead mother's laughing at me, and then I would like turn really quick and be like, and then she snapped back. But it was sleep deprivation. So I don't want to have that be a blanket excuse for all the violence in society. But I think sometimes that's a factor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about excuse. I think like how do I put it? Like we put way too much emphasis on, and this is something that I talk about with people to try to drill home to them, is that there's really no such thing as responsibility. Nobody's really responsible for anything. And they'll say, well, how can you say that? Okay, well, because all of the factors that you choose, all the factors that impact what you do are out of your control. You don't choose to exist. You don't choose when to exist. You don't choose where to exist. You don't choose what lessons you learn. So the very circuitry of your brain is formed before you go to make any of those choices. So I would go back to, you ever notice how like a Zen master never praises or blames anybody? Never. Like if you go to a Zen master and you were to say, look at what this great accomplishment, he'll go, okay. Or you go to him and say, hey, I just did this horrible thing. Okay. Because they know that praise and it's arbitrary, right? It's all arbitrary. It doesn't really mean anything. So that's why when people always want to point the finger at other people, I'm like, come off it, mate. Like, come on. Like, if somebody does really well in life, it's probably because they inherited money, right? There's no such thing as a self-made. I'm still looking for the person that so-called the self-made millionaire. I'm still looking for that person, right? Everybody who really makes it already comes from a position of advantage, you know. And the people who don't, it's not for lack of talent, you know. So, for example, Cody, for example, why isn't Too Many Things Came to Nothing a fucking bestseller? It's one of the fucking best books I've ever read. It's raw and it's honest. It's better than most of the fucking garbage out there, you know. I mean, I think you read it, right? You have it.
I haven't. No, I have it. I own it, Cody, but I have not read it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, but or his book American Bullshit. Like both of those books, they ought to be. And then you read some of this stuff, and it's like, is this really what people like?
Oh, wait, Cody, I didn't know you had a second book.
You got three.
Yeah,
Oh, you have three.
Yeah.
So it's Too Many Things Have Come to Nothing, American Bullshit, and then what's the third?
All the Sweet Prettiness of Life.
What was the third?
All the Sweet Prettiness of Life.
All the Sweet Prettiness of Life. And are they all? Is it all poetry?
No, American Bullshit is a collection of essays, and then Too Many Things Nothing is essays plus stories, and then All the Sweet Prettiness of Life is novella, basically.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm gonna order the other two. I'm excited. I'm gonna go on a little Cody Sexton reading binge.
You know what?
Appreciate
Okay,
Thank you.
Cody, Cody, he's also got one. He's also got one in the works. Cody, you got to remind me. I'm still working on the forward to it.
Yeah.
So he's got one. It's fucking hilarious. It's hilarious because, well, I don't know. At least as a guy, it's hilarious. It's all about different pornos he wants to see. It's great. It's hilarious. It's funny because like, I mean, him and I are old enough, and I don't. Is it okay if I ask your age? Is that okay if I ask?
Yeah, I'm 43.
Okay, so you're old enough to. Okay, from our generation, so I'm almost 38, so we're all roughly in the same. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have this experience of finding like a treasure trove of porn?
I have a disturbing experience of that.
Wonderful. Let's hear it.
When my father was dying, I found his treasure trove of porn.
What was he into?
Nothing crazy, like nothing like kinky or weird.
Oh,
But just stuff where I was like, oh, like he's got a type. Okay. Like I looked at it and I didn't like really look. I just was like, oh shit. And then my brother walked in and I was like, I just found our dad's treasure trove of porn. And my dad's like downstairs, like literally like in a coma, like in and out of you know, and my brother was like, oh, I'll take it, give it to me. And I was like, are you sure you really want this? He's like, yeah. So I gave it to
of
him. And I
course
was
he
like,
did.
all right, dude, like it's out of my hands. But I've never found anyone else's.
Yeah.
Although, you know, I'm a heterosexual woman in relationships with heterosexual men who have had treasure troves of porn, but I haven't like stumbled. That was the only time I stumbled across like a hidden one, you know.
See, but that's like a universal, almost a universal experience of people who are. I mean, now it's less and less, but I mean, back when. I mean, I've talked about this before, so long-time viewers are probably going to get sick of hearing about this. But like I remember when I was helping my uncle move. It was one of the best experiences of my life because my father, my uncle was, and he was a degenerate. Like this guy got crabs and stuff, and it was hilarious. We made fun of him because he got crabs and shit. It's like, this motherfucker got crabs, ha ha. But anyway, so he was a filthy guy. So we were helping him move, and he had a whole. So my mother and him were in a different room, and so I'm just like 9, 10, right? I'd never seen anything. I mean, the closest I'd come was like, Baywatch or those Girls Gone Wild commercials where you'd like record them and then just keep. And so when I opened this guy's one closet, it was VHS tapes and boxes of like 30 years of like Playboys and Penthouses and like my dopamine circuits and like all of my, I was like, boom, like I didn't know what to do. So I just grabbed as much shit as I could and stuffed it in my, and just stole a bunch of his porn. But like almost everybody has that experience of like found porn, like finding either like Cody's got one with his uncle, or I think it was your uncle, right? You found your uncle's, you stole a bunch of your uncle's porn.
Well, you know, now that, okay, so when I was in early high school, a friend of mine who's this Mormon kid, and of course we were friends because he was weird, and it turned out later he was gay, but he was Mormon. We were in like theater together. He found like his grandfather's stash and stole some, but it was like, I mean, looking back, I'm like, it was the tamest stuff. It was like pictures of naked ladies, you know, but
Back
it was
then,
like
that was enough.
1992 and
That
there's
was
no
enough.
internet.
Yep.
And we were 13 and 14 and we're like, oh yeah, you know, this is crazy. And I don't think nowadays people have treasure troves of porn because you don't have to, like when you can type in anything you want and find it in seconds, you don't need to have like a collection or a stash of anything.
No.
I mean, I guess people might have a collection of links, right? Like, or bookmarks. If someone's like, I'm really into, I don't know, golden showers. Like they've got like the best golden showers links, but it's still not the same. It's not the same as a trove. It's just not the same.
It's not physical.
It's a different. It's a different experience too, because in a way, and I don't. In a way, it kind of like the internet kind of reduced the specialness of like finding it, which like if you found like you was like you stumbled on gold, because like I remember in middle school it was a similar situation where like a kid stole his dad's porn magazine. And we were very conflicted because his dad was into like hairy Amazonian women. So all of the pictures were like beefy, hairy armpit leg women. And so we were of two minds. We're like, but also she's naked though. So that's cool, but a lot of hair. But we still like valued it. We valued it because we're like, you know, before then we'd never seen anything. So we're just like, and we asked him, we're like, can you steal something else? He's just like, this is what my dad's into. It's like, oh, all right, I guess we'll work with what we have. So we all tore out a picture. That's what we used for the time.
I think you said something, you nailed it when you said the specialness, because it's like the monster in the horror movie. The monster in the horror movie, it's the same with vaginas. You know, when you only see a silhouette or you only see like a shadow, a hint of something, it's much scarier or it's much more intriguing. But when at the end, like the monster's shown up a bunch and you've kind of seen it from every angle, you're like, I don't know. It kind of looks like half claymation and it's not that scary. Like you're just not as scared at the end of the movie as you are at the beginning. And I think it's the same. Like once you've been on the internet and you're like, I've seen all sorts of different genitalia from every angle, shaved, and after a while you're like, I don't know, it's not such a big deal. But it kind of loses the specialness, you know. It does. The internet has done that, I think, for in so many areas where it's like this thing used to be mysterious or rare or you know, like I've always loved like unsolved mysteries of any kind, like crime or Bermuda Triangle or UFOs. And the internet has really kind of like killed that buzz for me a lot of times now.
Yeah. I will say, I'm working on several pieces, but there is one piece where I heard an interview with Chuck Palahniuk, and he said that he wanted to put together, because he also had the same observation. He was talking to everybody had a found porn story, and he wanted to gather them all together and call it Children of the Porn. But he's like, well, nobody's going to take it. I'll use that title. If you're not going to use it, I'm going to use it, buddy. I mean, if you're going to be, you know, I mean, I'm more than happy to steal that title if you're not going to use it, bro. So me and Cody talked about this, and it's like I'm kind of giving away the whole story, but it's structured around, like, you've read or seen Stand By Me, right?
I've seen it.
So it's like that, except, you know, it's set in the 90s, and this kid comes up to this group of young kids, you know, back in, you know, the early 90s, and he says, yo, like, there's a cabin in the woods that I found. It's full of porn. And then the kids are like, show us. And then he's just like, fuck you. And he takes off. So now the kids just have this inkling that there's maybe this cabin of porn. And so off they go. Because I always thought, I want to see a dead body, because that's the premise of Stand By Me. And it's good. I'm not saying, it's a good story. It's a good coming of age kind of. But I thought, what would set me to really go search for something? A dead body? Maybe. But if somebody said that there was, back in the 90s, a cabin with a ton of porn in it, I'd be out there looking for, you know. So then off these boys go, these middle school full of testosterone boys. Off they go to search. I won't give away the ending, but that's the. And it's kind of, I don't know, heartwarming. I think it's because, yeah, one's first exposure to porn is just special. It's just you first. I still got somewhere. The first I stole, all this was stolen, right? Because can't get it. yeah, I got a calendar, a Playboy calendar from, like, I still got it somewhere in my whatever. And I look at it with fond memories. I'm just like, yeah, this is good times right here. So
I'm just laughing because my husband's always on the quest for like one or another of like the first porn he ever, or it's some sort of like nostalgic memory from 1988. And he's like, and it had this in it, and I know it's out there somewhere, and I gotta find it. So I think there's something special, especially for men, about the first porn. And I think too, like it's no coincidence you brought up Stand By Me. When you're at that stage of life, you are still like enthusiastic and curious about the human body and bodies shared between people and sex, and it's all very like new, and there's this fresh energy around it. And I mean, I'm not trying to say like, well, we're old now, but when you get to our age, like now I'm like, none of that is very fresh or intriguing anymore. Like now I'm like at, almost 44, I'm like, yeah, I don't know, people have sex. Like you can go out and buy a dildo, big deal. Like you could, like I could go get some porn right now, I don't care. But when you're 13 or 14, it's all new. It's just it's a different landscape.
yeah, like when you reach our age, you got to really start. I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but like, and I don't want to speak for Cody, though I bet you're much the same way, Cody. You got to start incorporating like, scenarios and all the naughty nurse. That's not going to do anymore. If we're going to get together, you have this elaborate thing. It's like drugs, right? Sex is like drugs. It's, you eventually you need to get higher and higher and more elaborate, more. Yeah.
Well, I mean, again, I don't want to speak for you guys, but at our age, at my age, a lot of it's like you think about your energy levels, which I never did when I was 15 or 16. Like when I was 15 or 16 and I was trying to stay out all night and stay at my boyfriend's house or hook up with some guy, I wasn't like, well, but I mean, how much energy is this going to take? Because I'm super tired. And now I'm like, I would take sleep over sex anytime. Anytime. Like sleep is now the treasured, like if I can get time for sleep and then I can actually get good sleep where I'm not waking up a bunch, I'm not tossing and turning, like it's that, like when you were a kid, where you would go to sleep at like 9 o'clock at night and you wouldn't even be conscious that time was passing until the next morning. I'm like that. I can't even believe that used to happen to me, because now I don't really, and I think it's just going to get worse. I mean, my grandmother, I remember her being 79. I think she slept like 2 hours a night. She just was walking around the house all night long. I'm like, God, that's going to be me, where you just can't sleep. So yeah, I think the priorities shift. I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys are still like, oh no, like I'm up all night having sex, I don't need to sleep. Like it's like I'm 15, but it's not.
All right.
Me.
All right, let's put this theory into action. See if Cody. Okay, I'm gonna say what I'll say this. If all of a sudden I had women knocking at my door wanting to fuck me nonstop. Let's say I was Hugh Hefner, right? Let's say, and women just wanted, I would say, fuck this writing shit. And I would just die fucking. Cody, what about you?
Yeah, if that was if the option was on the table, yeah, I'll take it every time. Man.
So if you could just get blown 24/7, you'd just be like, fuck this writing shit. I'm just doing that. And I'm going to go out like a savage.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. See, I feel like if I had apparently people lined up, I don't know. It feels like just people showing up asking for energy from me. Like it just feels like people who want more energy. And I'm like, I have such limited energy. That's what, like I've read stuff, people who do like polyamory. And a lot of people are like, oh yeah, that's the dream, right? Like it's just sanctioned affairs. But for me, I'm like, but that's all this energy you have to spend interacting with all these people and managing all these different relationships with people. And I'm so tired. Like I'm so tired these days between like work and having a kid and being almost 44, that like when I think about anybody showing up at my door for anything, I'm like, well, how much energy is this going to take? Because I don't like I have this much and they can't have it. You know, like if I give them this much, then that's my personal hygiene energy that I've already put aside for me. So I don't know.
I can
And
appreciate
this has
that.
only shifted since I've gotten older. In my 20s, I wanted to meet all the guys I could. And now I don't really want to meet all the people I can.
You
It's
know
too
what?
much.
I can sympathize with that to a certain degree. I mean, I can't speak for Cody, but it's like I reached a certain point where I'm just like, I think I've met everybody I cared. You know, like, yeah, I kind of see because I'm kind of low energy too, and like, yeah, I can sympathize with that. Where if somebody knocks on my door, the first thing I think is like you. It's like, oh, who is it? It's like, ugh. Or even if somebody calls, I'm just like,
That's rude.
It's like my husband and I were talking about casual sex a few weeks ago because before we met, we both had a ton of casual sex, and we're like,
yeah.
Well, see, that's the thing though. In fantasy, you're like, yeah, but in
No.
reality, every single time you have casual sex, it's a person you have to deal with. Like you have to talk to them. They might like leave something at your house. There's going to be like, you just have to deal with them and their energy and the package of who they are. And most people are a handful. Whether they mean to be or not, most people are a handful. They're going to ask you questions and they're going to like use your bathroom and do something weird in it. I don't know. They're just like a person. Do you know what I mean? Like any person on earth is just a person. And so we were thinking about that, like, yeah, all the like stuff you have to deal with, and we're just not up for it anymore. Like, I don't want to deal with a person coming in and them being a handful and me having to manage it any longer, which I don't know. I'm like, gosh, I guess I'm shut down in that way now. Like maybe I'm not saying yes to life, but again, and it's almost the same thing with friends where I'm like, I'm not saying I don't want to make any more friends, but every friendship you have, like, that person's going to bring stuff to it and you're going to bring stuff to it. And, it's like just energy.
Fair. Yeah, I can see that. Cocaine goes a hell of a way in lubricating the sexual experience. Like, I haven't done it a lot. I will readily admit. Like, I think a lot of people be like, "Oh, I bet you did it." No, to be fair, I only did it a few times. But like, yeah, in my 20s, okay. If I share a sex story, will you share some of yours back in your 20s? Because we live for that shit. Yeah, in the 20s.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if I have anything that interesting, but I'll try to dredge something up.
Yeah. So in the 20s, it was great because you just find a bar, you just cocaine goes a hell of a way. You can just take two lines, you both do a line, go in the bathroom, you do your thing, bam, you're done. And then that's it. But I don't know how Cody, actually, do you mind tell? I love when you tell this story. It warms my heart. Tell her how you met your wife. Tell me how you met your wife. This is such a wonderful, degenerate story. I love it.
It's a very wholesome story.
It's very great.
We had a party at a hotel actually, so we rented a suite. So we won't ring in the new year there. And then somebody got the idea that they had never seen anybody perform live sex before. And so I said, well, I'll volunteer. And then so another girl volunteered, and so we went at it, and a group formed around us, and then wife having me in that group. So that's how I first met her.
Oh, I was going to say your wife was the girl.
No, she wasn't a girl.
Okay, but she was in the group. So did you start talking to her afterwards?
Yeah, and then we actually worked together too for that summer or the following summer.
Okay, but so she knew you. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So you right out of the gate, you're like, this woman does not judge. She's pretty open-minded.
No. Yeah. She's different. Yeah.
It's wonderful. Isn't that a great story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my husband and I met under not those circumstances, but he'd been up all night and I was out the next morning drinking again. And we had run into each other at a bar the night before, and I kind of knew who he was. We had friends in common, but then we met at this really like just kind of nasty dive bar, and it was like 8 or 9 a.m. And my friends left, and I was like, there's no one who will take shots with me. And he showed up, and and he came over, and we started taking shots together. And that was really how we connected. Which I'm always like hesitant to, if I'm at like my son's friend's birthday party and they're like, how did you guys meet? It's like, oh, just say mutual friends, let's say we were at the bar at 8 a.m. I don't know if I have to.
You wouldn't enjoy like shocking people with that story, just like fucking them up a little bit, just peppering them with a little, letting them know where they stand.
No, not anymore. I mean, I guess it depends. If it feels like that might be what the person really needs at that time, then sure. But a lot of people, I'm like, they're not really looking for that right now. So yeah, I don't know. I gave up like a lot of I used to really like to shock people. That was my thing. I loved to shock people. I loved to like shake people up. And now I feel like I always wanted people to shift and transform. That was what was at the bottom of it for me. I wanted people to grow. I wanted people to break out of their ideas. I wanted people to think different and think new, because being in this box drove me crazy. And then at some point I realized a lot of people just don't want to break out of the box though. They just don't want to, and they're not going to. So again, it's an energy thing for me, where I'm like, I don't need to waste energy like shaking and shaking this box, and then I'm just gonna walk away anyway, and they're gonna be like, okay, that was weird. I guess the box shook for a minute, but I'm gonna stay right inside it. Like, I'd rather just meet the people who are like actively trying to get out of the box. You can tell, like, I'm really, really like territorial about my energy. Everything's about my energy. I'm like, I can't waste any of it.
I feel the same about my time, really. So it's sort of the same thing. I don't like to have my time wasted.
Yeah, I'm a time like that's what actually enrages me the most about, like, if something takes too much time, I'm like, come on. Like a bureaucracy, I'm just like, I don't have time for that. Like, do I absolutely have to deal with this phone call? Do I absolutely have to deal with this person who's going to make me fill out these forms? Because it's just like, time's ticking, right? I'm in a state of perpetual death. I'm dying every fucking second here. Let's get going, right? I mean, Bill Hicks once said, you pay for life with death. Everything in life should be for free. I'm of much of the same mindset. It's like, I think that's what gets me about a lot of these. I think what angers me the most about a lot of situations is just how much time is wasted by people with making things unnecessarily complicated, right? You want to just shake people and be like, life is not that complicated. You wake up, you eat, you piss, you shit, you sleep, and then you die. That's it. Everything else is just artificial complications for no purpose. But
yes, that's what I was trying to say when I was like, oh, I don't want to deal with having casual sex, or I don't want to deal with, like, a lot of times forming a new friendship, or even shocking people who don't care. Like, I don't want to deal with the artificial complications anymore. It's I don't have time for it. And I'm not like, well, like, I don't have time for this bullshit. I mean, like, I really know that I am going to die. Like, if I live to be in my late 70s, that's pretty good. Like, a lot of people don't make it to their late 70s. Living to say 79 would be like, that's a ripe old age. And I'm like, well, that's only like 35 years away from me. And I have all this stuff I want to teach, and all these books I want to write. I want to travel still. I want to get my kid raised and out the door. Like, I got a lot of shit I really want to do. So I can't get involved with the artificial complications, period. And maybe that means, like, some friendships are going to have to go, and, like, I can't read the news anymore or whatever, but I have to be ruthless of, like, I got to cut away the artificial complications.
I can kind of see the point with the casual sex, because, like, when I think back to like when I think on it, I don't know obviously how it is for women, but like I've made this joke before, which it's like it's very repetitive. Like it's got the same ending, right? Like for a man, it's got the same ending, and it's. I'm getting that feedback again. Is anybody else getting that feedback?
Yeah, I'm hearing it. Yeah.
Okay, let me just. Oh, I'm really getting it bad. Wonder if it's my shit. Let me turn it down. Let me. Turn my volume down. Okay. Well, I can still hear it. I'll just have to try to block over it. No, I just think. It's got the same ending, and so unless it's if there's some kind of other extra thing on top of it, it's almost not worth it. Like jerking off does the same thing, you know.
So I think something you just said that's what it is for me. Casual sex for me now, it's like casual friendship. I'm at a point in my life where if there's not a really deep connection with the person, then I don't want to do it. I don't want to go out to lunch with two women because we happen to be the same age and our kids are in the same class. Because I don't care. And it's a waste of my time to spend time with people I'm not deeply connected with. So I don't want to have sex with someone I'm not deeply connected with either, because it's the same thing. Like, why? Like, what's the point? You know, I don't, and it's nothing like it's no ill will towards any of those people, but I don't need to spend any time with any human being that I don't have a deep connection with. I mean, obviously, like I'm gonna take my car into the mechanic and have conversations with people. Like, you know, of course, I'm not being extreme.
Yeah.
But I don't want to spend a lot to be for me an investment of physical energy, mental energy, and emotional energy with any other human being unless I care about them. I mean, I'm doing this because I'd probably rather be alone. I got a lot of books I want to read. I got a lot of stuff I want to do alone. So if I'm taking away from my time alone to be with you, like you have to mean something to me. And you have to really mean something to me.
So I have to ask you a question that is always that's bugged me, but not bugged me in a negative way, but bugged me in a positive way since I first met. Why were you so gracious to me? And I don't ask that because of any kind of like I'm a piece of shit. Like I think I'm a piece of shit. It's just the very first interaction was, and every subsequent interaction has been so. It's like nothing else I've experienced. So what did you see in me that made you want to invest time to a total stranger? I could have been some jerk off for all you know, but it fucks with me a little bit.
So I'm going to try to put this in words, and it's the same for Cody, but because I can see you and I can see you too, Cody. I can see both of you. You weren't a total stranger to me. Like we'd had some interaction on Twitter, you know, and we'd had a couple emails, and I got the feeling of you. I could get the feeling of you very loud and clear. I can get the feeling of most people loud and clear, but I could see you. I can see what you are, and you are, you're really trying to make a difference. You're really trying to make a difference here. And there've been some incredible odds, and sometimes you get super angry about it, but you really are working for the good. You're committed. And same thing with you, Cody. Like both of you are working for the good. And your priority in life is working towards that end rather than money or getting status, or you're not trying to like build this small, carefully constructed thing for your ego. Like a lot of people are like trying to build this little paper mache thing that their ego can live in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But neither one of you are. And that's it. I could just feel that you were full of love, really. And I just knew that.
Huh. Okay. Well, that means a lot. That means a lot because before I ever hit you up, like I was a fan because I used your articles when trying to explain what transgressive fiction was. So I actually was a fan way before I hit you up, and like, you know, you're a pretty big deal. And so I expected you to just be like, fuck off, right? And when that wasn't the reception I got, I was like shocked. I was like, what? You know?
Well, so I also want to say it's funny that you're like, you're a pretty big deal. I don't feel like a big deal. I like when we first got on, I was like, oh my God, thank you for dealing with me because I'm weird. That's how I feel all the time. I'm like, I'm an anxious, awkward weirdo, you know, and yeah, I sell books and like I get people in my classes. I'm happy about that. But I even in my classes, I apologize to people. I'm like, you guys, I'm sorry, I'm so awkward, you know, because I really am. And maybe that's what I felt too. Like I've met with a lot of people in my life who I've started talking to, and they're like, you're really weird. And they don't say it in a good way. They're not like, yeah, you're really weird. They're like, you're really weird and I don't like it. And when we interacted, you were very accepting of me. Like you were just very nice to me. You know, it was like we were two kids meeting on the playground and you kind of came up and were like, hey, and I was like, hey, I'm weird. And you're like, that's okay. I'm weird too. And I was like, this guy's nice. Like this kid wants to play. You know, that's the feeling. So I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I could see your heart. I could see your heart, you know, and that you had nothing but good intentions in your heart.
That might be overselling it a little bit.
Towards me.
Oh yeah.
Towards me is what I mean. Not like towards everybody. But like as you coming up as the other kid on the playground and tapping me and be like, hey, do you want to play with me? Like I could tell that you weren't trying to trick me. You weren't gonna like suddenly make fun of me. Like you really did want to play and you really did want to be my friend.
Yeah, because it stemmed from a deep respect, a really deep respect of yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons that I really wanted you on board for the Filthenthal. One of the reasons was just, I mean, I was a fan of your work and I'd read your articles, and they were just fantastic. Because trying to explain what, and you know what, even at this point, I actually don't know a good explanation of transgressive fiction. So when somebody asks me what it is, the best I can do, and they ask me this somewhat frequently, the best I can come up with is it's literary combined with some elements of genre fiction to create a bastard child, right? Like I wouldn't even say like the taboo part of it is necessary, because you can read something like George R. Martin where there's rape and there's all of that. You can find taboo stuff all over that's not classified as transgressive fiction. But I think the best that I can come up with is just it's like literary fiction sprinkled on where you draw from horror, crime, anything, and you bring that together, and in some way that produces transgressive fiction, right?
Yeah, I would say my simplest definition would be that it's work that aims to challenge value systems.
Yeah.
Most of the time traditional value systems, but really any value systems. Really any value systems. I feel like the point of any transgressive work is to interrupt the establish patterns of thoughts that people have around their values and make them examine those values, question those values, question other values. And it would be like taboo's kind of like one of the easiest ways to do it, right?
But horror does that. But horror,
yeah, same thing. So that's like transgressive fiction could be crime fiction, it could be horror fiction, it could be literary fiction, it could be erotica, but whatever it is, like one of the deepest themes of the work is challenging value systems.
Yeah.
That's the simplest way I can say. And I know that's super broad too. So that, and you're going to get people too who are like, well, transgressive fiction is only literary, only William S. Burroughs. And then there are other people who are like, no, it's only like shocking and funny. It's only Chuck Palahniuk. Like, I think it's a lot of different things.
I would agree with that. And I think it has a kind of like organic shock value, right? So I don't know about you, but when I set out to write a piece, I never set out with the intention of it being transgressive fiction. Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
You and Cody continue talking. My bladder is filling up quickly. I have to quickly go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a sec.
Sure.
Well, Cody, this is a good time for, what's your definition of transgressive fiction? Do you have a definition?
No, I don't have a definition really. I'm not sure if it's a real genre, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I guess to me it doesn't really have a definition outside of a marketing campaign for the most part. Like I'm not really interested in being labeled a transgressive writer. I mean, people do give me that label, but I don't really consider that. I don't consider myself a transgressive writer. But I guess to what you said, that it's against values. I mean, I guess that's sort of what I do, because, well, I don't like the status quo, I guess. So I'm always railing against that. So in that sense, I guess it is transgressive.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about the marketing, because honestly, that was why I started saying my first book was transgressive fiction. I mean, it says it's transgressive elements, but it's not like a hardcore shocker or anything. But if you go into the marketplace these days as a writer and you're like, I wrote a memoir, I wrote literary fiction, like it's so broad that it's just like you can't get anywhere with it. You have to kind of niche down, as unpleasant as it is. And I think transgressive fiction can be a really nice way to niche down, honestly, for some authors. Like you said, you're like, I don't consider myself transgressive, but would you say others do? Others consider you transgressive?
Yeah, I'm sure other people, consider themselves transgressive. Sure, yeah. I think they do.
And because I haven't read your work, what are the transgressive elements? Is it like shocking imagery, or like, is it sexually explicit? Like, what is it that's transgressive?
Well, I guess it depends on the book. I guess all the stupidness of life is pretty explicit, but I mean, it's not that explicit to me really. I mean, it's just sort of like, it's sort of things it's always in my head. With American Bullshit, it's very anti-capitalist book. So it's very much like pro-communism. So in that sense, I guess it would be transgressive. And then with the Too Many Things Came to Nothing, it's really more like it is really a memoir, really, with a few short stories tacked on at the end. And I'm pretty open with a lot of things in my life, so I guess that could also be considered transgressive, or even like vengeful to an extent.
I wonder if that's part of it. Like you said, I'm pretty open. I wonder if part of it's like talking about the stuff you're not supposed to talk about.
It's probably part of it, yeah.
Like kind of opening the doors. Like, here's my dirty laundry, like all of my dirty laundry.
Yeah.
She's German.
You kind of cut out there for a minute.
Oh, have you read Wetlands?
Oh no, I haven't read that one.
No.
Oh, you guys should check it out. Don't read it while you're eating. I'm going to say that right away. It's like the grossest, funniest book.
Awesome.
It's Wetlands by Charlotte Roche. And I really, really loved it. So, I mean, if you go on Goodreads, like half the people just hated it. But I've never read transgressive fiction that got so into the grossness of the body.
Nice. Wetlands. I gotta add that.
Yeah. And she wrote another book because I guess she had 4 brothers, and on the day she was getting married, all 4 of them died in a car accident on the way to her wedding.
Damn.
Yeah, we're all in the same car.
Crazy.
Fucked up, right? She's amazing. She looks like this little pixie woman. She's German. She's super cute. She's like a little Audrey Hepburn. And I just saw her picture. I was like, God, you wrote the grossest book I've ever read. You're the cutest thing I've ever seen.
See, I don't know about you, but when I go look on reviews for different books, like if somebody says, like when they 1 star and then they go, this was too disturbing, it's like, yeah, that's a selling point. You know, like when somebody says like, you know, it disturbed you, like I want something to, like when I read, I mean, not always, but if I'm picking up a transgressive fiction book, like I want it to fuck me up, like, which is why I push so hard now for like reading Tender as the Flesh, because like you get, even now, I wish I could talk about the ending with people, because with you two, because it's just, you reach the ending and it's one of those, what I would say the hallmark that separates, I would say, something that's good from something that's a masterpiece is that it will continue to haunt you. Like it'll continue to either positively or negatively. And like the ending is, there's many interpretations you can give to the ending, and I don't know what to give to it. But that's the hallmark of it, because I'm like, I can see it being this, or I can see it being this, or this, or this, or this. But that's also one of those books you don't want to read while you're eating. And maybe for me, that book was so good because I have problems with food. Like I don't really like eating. I like not being hungry, if that makes sense. But I don't enjoy I'm not somebody who savors a meal. Like I just want to not be full, if that makes sense. And so when they get into the slaughterhouses of Tender as the Flesh, which that's a big part of it, it makes it even more uncomfortable just because I have a sort of an uneasy relationship with food. But
Sebastian, you really are like a version of my husband. It's like you guys are like different strains of the same human, because he has the same thing with food where he's told me, he's like, if I could just take a pill and not be hungry for the day, I would. Like if that was how you could just eat food, you could just take 1 pill in the morning and be good, I would do it.
yeah, I just don't derive. I mean, as a kid, I mean, younger I did, but as I got older, I mean, mastication, and it's just very, and then you learn about how different things are made, and yeah, it's just a gross, like the human animal, I mean, it's just disgusting. It's just a disgusting so no, I mean, but that's also why I kind of like stuff about like cannibalism and that kind of stuff. Is just, it makes me think like really unsettled.
Oh, that's the one I can't do, is cannibalism. Like squicks me out. Like I saw that movie live when I was 15 or 16, and I was like, oh God, they're eating the butt. Like I can't do it.
Wait, what is it?
That movie Alive.
Oh yeah.
Where they go down the Andes, the plane crash. It's like a soccer team, and they like start eating the dead bodies, and like they're like, I just remember the scene where they're like digging into somebody's butt. I was like, oh God. No.
You're gonna have a rough go with Tender as the Flesh, because the premise of, oh, you don't know what it's about.
No,
it's about,
is it cannibalism?
100%.
Oh, I don't know if I can. I don't know. That's like
you
my
have
one.
to.
I'm like, it really disturbs me.
Okay, here's what it is. Here's the premise of it. There's been a virus. It's made animal meat inedible. So now slaughterhouses have turned into human slaughterhouses, and that's the basic premise of it. It's all about cannibalism, all about it. And you're gonna hate the novel that I'm outlining right now. I'm outlining a novel about a disgraced top chef who's roped into an underground cannibal restaurant. There's also
that sounds really like an interesting premise, honestly.
Yeah, like a chick who is like this chick who's like very like Gordon Ramsay type, but then she gets disgraced and then she goes out into the woods and people find her and are like, it's like here's why I find cannibal stories interesting is because it's almost like it's like a metaphor for capitalism. And if you read Tender as the Flesh, there's a lot of anti-capitalist subtext to it. And it's that, what is capitalism other than cannibalizing a person's time and labor, right? And so I view cannibalism as sort of the next extension of that, right? And so I don't like the cannibal stories where it's like The Hills Have Eyes, where it's just a bunch of hillbilly rednecks that are doing that. In a way, I almost resent that, because it's almost like we're treating rednecks as if they're. Do you know where the term redneck comes from?
Is it because when you're a farmer, the back of your neck gets red in the sun?
No. Redneck comes from the red bandanas that people down south would put on when they were doing uprisings, for if people were trying to fuck them out of, if the union busting, you put on the red scarf, right?
Yeah.
And so, in a way, I kind of don't like that. What I rather like are the stories where it's rich people, which is obviously what an elite restaurant would do, are cannibalizing poor people. That's better, I would say. Now, don't get me wrong. I love The Hills Have Eyes, right? I mean, Jack Ketchum's Off Season is good.
God. Jack Ketchum. He's another one. I read his books and I was like, I can't remember what it was, but I was like nauseous the entire way through.
Probably Off Season. That's all about cannibals too. You probably read Off Season.
I don't know if it was. I feel like there was these people were in a cave and I think they were eating, like a pregnant woman had a baby and they ate it. I don't know. It was.
Yeah.
There was a big blood drip on the. I thought it was just regular horror, and then I was like, oh God. And I made myself finish it. I make myself finish every book I start. I've never abandoned a book.
I always talk this up. Have you read one of my favorite horror short stories is actually Stephen King's Survivor Type. Have you read that?
Yeah, I was actually going to bring that up. Yeah, where it's the guy who's on the island with a bunch of heroin or coke, and then he eats himself.
Yup.
And he gets up to like the waist, Yup. Yeah.
I love that one. I love that short story. He actually hit up his doc. He actually hit up a doctor. I think in the last episode I told this, but no, he actually, when he was doing that, he actually hit up. He had his neighbor was a doctor, so he just knocked on his neighbor's door.
Like, hey,
didn't give any context. Didn't give any context. It was just like something to the effect of like, hey, what would you need for like tell me the intricacies of like eating a person and all of that. And the doctor was like, why do you want to know? He's like, oh, it's for a story, right? And he's like, oh, okay, well, he'd need a lot of drugs. Don't worry about it. He's a doctor smuggling drugs. He's got plenty of painkillers. And he's like, doctor says, yeah, I guess that would work. He goes, it'd have to be some real tough person. Like, I guess he'd have to just have a survivor type. And that's how we got the title. You've never abandoned a book?
No. It's like compulsive. I've finished every book I've ever started, and some of them have been really hard to finish. Like Samuel Beckett's The Unnameable. Oh, that was a tough one. I read the entire decline and fall of the history of the decline and fall of Roman Empire. That was tough getting through. I did that one with a group though, it took over a year. But getting through that with a group, it was like it started out 8 people and then they just slowly fell away, and there was me and 2 like old guys meeting once a week. Like they're in their like 80s and me. But yeah, I've read like that's why like I try not to jump into books lightly. You know, big tough books. Like I've got a copy of Mishnah Torah shelf that I want to read, and I'm like, ooh, am I really going to be able to get through like this big, Jewish text? I don't know. I'm obsessed with like comparative religion though, so because my theory is like no matter how hard the book, I just have to read word after word, right? Like even if it's really tough or I'm really bored or I don't get it, like a lot of stuff I'm like, this is just over my head. Philosophy, a lot of philosophy is over my head, and I'm like, I just have to read like the word and then the next word and then the next word. So yeah, it's a compulsive thing with me. I'm weird about reading. It's not like something I do for pleasure. It is, but it's not. Do you know what I mean?
And take it from me, a lot of the philosophy shit, it's a fucking waste of time. It's a dead end anyway. So you can just you know my background, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Take it from me, who's went down that road. It's a fucking dead end, right? The road to truth will leave you rotting and dying at the side of the road. You realize that when you've gone down the path that I did. So it's like, I think I'm kind of like you too, which is why I really value, unless it's really well written, like I think 200-ish pages is like a good benchmark, right? Too much over that, I have my ADHD or ADD just kicks in. But like, I mean, as much as I like some of Stephen King's stuff, some of it's like, fuck, dude, like, fucking hell. I will give Alexander Solzhenitsyn, he gets a pass because have you read Alexander Solzhenitsyn?
I've only read One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. Yeah, and that was, I mean, I probably read that 20 years ago. I haven't read the Galapagos Circle.
Yeah, in the first circle, or the Gulag
not the
Archipelago.
Galapagos. I think Charles Darwin. What is that? What's the name of
the Gulag Archipelago?
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah. He's worth it because it's so insightful that even though it's, the Gulag Archipelago is, I don't know, I think it's 3 volumes and each one is, I think, like 800. So it's huge. And in the first circle is like 800 something. It's a guy who spent 11 years in the gulags, like much like Dostoevsky, right? Where it's got very introspective, although he's better because as much as I like Dostoevsky, he smuggled in too much of that Christian shit in there where it's like, get the fuck out of here. What was it? Oh yeah, the Brothers Karamazov. Like, I wish his editor would have just been like, take all that Christian shit out. Who gives a fuck? Which is why Notes to the Underground is so good, right? Because his editor was actually like, fuck this Christian shit. Nobody gives a fuck. Same with Crime and Punishment. There's a little bit of that. Luckily, it's not overdone, but that's where Dostoevsky loses me. He's great, but when he gets into that religious shit, it's like, get fucked, dude. Like, yeah.
Was it, like you said about the Gulag Archipelago, you're like, I'll make an exception. Like Proust. I've read all of Proust's, his Remembrance of Things Past, because I really enjoyed it. I didn't feel like I was slaving away through that. I really, really enjoy him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know how else to say. I just enjoy him. Some authors, I like. It's like I enjoy them. It's not even. It is the quality of the writing, but it's their. I can feel their vibe. And other people, I just like someone brought up Tim O'Brien the other day, the things they carried, and I was like, yeah, I read that. I liked it, but I didn't really enjoy him. Like I don't really need to know Tim O'Brien better. I'm cool. I read that one book, and I don't need to know any more of him. But some authors, I'm like, oh, I really like your whatever feeling you're bringing across. I like your vibe.
You are much like me. Okay, you're much like me and Thomas Ligotti in that regard. So in another interview I gave, I said that the books that I enjoy the most are the ones where I see the author clearly in the work, right? So if you read Lovecraft,
Mm-hmm.
so if you get to know Lovecraft better, so get better or worse, right? I mean, you get to
Yeah.
know. We can make the trite, and yes, okay, there's a lot of racist shit in there. Fine, forget about that. You get his cosmology down and how he thought about the world. When you read Thomas Ligotti, I don't know if you read Thomas Ligotti, like his short
No,
stories.
I haven't.
Right, hang on a minute. This one is really good. This is his collection of short stories. This is his first two.
That's on my reading list. You recommended that to me.
Yeah, and you get how do I put it? Like it can be kind of a difficult read, but I like the way he phrase, like the way you phrase, like the way he phrases things, and the way it's not scary, but it's unsettling, if that makes sense. Like you're not going to get scared by the book, but what you're going to do is it's going to kind of berate your soul a little bit, right? Because it's just full throttle nihilism. And of course, Conspiracy Against the Human Race is his nonfiction book, which is outstanding. I mean, that's gonna just that'll drill you. Or Bukowski is another one that I enjoy. Although I enjoy his poetry a lot more than his prose. I know that I'll be called a heretic for this, but like I think he was a very mediocre prose writer. He was okay. But I think where he got his purchase, at least for me, was just his unbridled honesty, where he was just so himself all the time in his work.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't hide who he was. He knew he was an alcoholic degenerate, and he embraced it. He knew who and what he was. And so those are the authors that I really love the most. So like, also sorry for droning on, but it's another one. So like I read recently The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones.
Oh, yeah, I read it too.
I have my own problems with it. I gave it a 5-star, and I stand by the 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
I have my own problems with it because I think it was written unnecessarily in a difficult kind of way. But I really thought I came away with that knowing Stephen Graham Jones better and how he kind of thought about the world, and I really loved that.
That was a weird one for me. I feel like I really resonated with like parts of it I thought were really interesting and well done. And I was really into it. And then but by the end I was like, I don't know. There feels like something's missing or I couldn't put my finger on it, but I was like I just felt let down or deflated. I don't know what it was. But same thing with you where I was like I'm going to give it 5 stars because the quality of the writing was, excellent. He's excellent.
Yeah.
I liked it, but there was also like I almost was like I wonder if he rewrote this to please an editor or something. Like it almost felt like there was a veering off towards the end where it was like we were staying the course. I could feel him really coming through very strong and true, and then the end felt diluted in a weird way or something.
See, I liked the end. I loved the end. What I didn't, and after I heard interviews with him, I'm like, oh, I got bored to death by the all the basketball scenes because again, I'm trying. Okay, to be fair, we're trying to get Stephen Graham Jones on the podcast. So I mean, I'm not slamming him. I'm not slamming him. I'm really not. It's just it's a priority thing. It's I couldn't give two shits about basketball. I don't care.
Yeah.
And so when it was droning on about see, but then again, somebody could read Tender as the Flesh and be like, well, I don't give a shit about the inner workings of a slaughterhouse, but I found it disturbing and fascinating. So I'm not going to fault the guy for what he likes. He said he really likes basketball, and and like I said, I just loved how much of like him was in it. Like he had once said, like he's always going to write. He'll always write from like this Blackfoot perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got me. All right, I'm in. Even if I don't find the work entirely compelling, I respect that you've embraced exactly what you are. I love that.
Well, I'm interested in that. Like that part was really interesting to me.
The basketball,
the Blackfoot part.
Oh yeah.
And just like being married to a white woman and all the dynamics of that, and like that part, like all of that was super interesting to me.
Well,
but it's also like you said, I'm not really interested in basketball. That's like the Moby Dick argument, right? People are like, I'm not interested in whaling. I'm not interested in like what it takes to cut up a whale and get into the inside of it. For me, I was like, I thought that was actually really interesting.
You and I are on the same page on that. You and I are on the same page because as a kid, that was my favorite book. I didn't give a shit about the plot. I just loved the whaling.
Yeah, like because it's very technical. It's almost like a textbook.
It's like I learned something. But no, returning to The Only Good Indians, I thought what was brilliant about that was the kind of, there's a bit of a transgressive element in there because like we always, I mean, and I think, and I don't want to misquote Stephen Graham Jones, I don't, but I think somewhere along the line he had said something like, in an interview, when people think of American Indians, they have a certain image, right? The headdress and the sweat lodges. And of course, that's not how a lot of them live, right? They live regular American lives, and they have, and I thought what was great about too was the fact that like there was this interesting transgression of that the event was poaching, right? That it was poaching a bunch of elk, which is, of course, when you grow up, you're taught, right or wrong, I don't know, I'm not going to make a judgment on it, that the American Indians had a deep respect for the land and the animals and whatever. So then to see, a group of full, American Indians go out and poach a bunch of elk, was like, wow, I kind of respected that, kind of a reversal of that, and to show like a modernization of how, but yeah.
Well, and we should say, anybody watching this, we should have said spoilers. So if you're going to read the book, don't listen to us talk about it.
We didn't give away any of the ending. I mean, we all know that they poached. I mean, it's in the book description, and we know. I mean, so we didn't give away the ending. But anyway, go on.
I was about to give away a detail that what I really liked was, with the young woman that he's suspicious of, and he sort of thinks like she's the monster, and it's presented to you in a way where you're supposed to be like, he's got mental health issues going on, like he's going crazy, and he might do violence to this poor innocent woman, especially with the way our culture is today of like, oh my God, like this woman might be harmed, she's in a dangerous situation. And then like she does kind of like get her head caved in, and then you find out, oh yeah, like that needed to happen, like that bitch needed to die, so it's like totally reverses you. You're like, oh, thank God her head got caved in, and I loved that because I was like, oh, I'm worried for her, and then I was like, but wait a minute, yeah, so it's this back and forth of like, I don't know how to feel, I don't know who I'm rooting for, I don't know which side evil is on, and I thought that was very well done.
See, and there was really and that's, I think, the brilliance of it is the fact of the characters were, I don't think there was any pure pieces of shit characters. They were all some mixture. They were all kind of shitty, kind of good, different respects. And it's like you were like a voyeur into, yeah, I mean, which is just to say they were three-dimensional. I didn't find one-dimensional character in the story, which, I mean, I would hope not. I mean, the man has a work ethic like nothing else. I mean, he's got, what, 20 books under his belt, I think.
I think a lot of stories as well.
Oh, just off the charts, productivity-wise, just bananas. Yeah, I mean, I've got my heart is a chainsaw on my desk that I'll eventually get to. But yeah, then I saw interviews with him, and I'm like, oh, he sounds like such a nice guy. I want to get him on. So hopefully we do. I mean, I'm not gonna, but hopefully we do. But what do you want to talk about for the next? I mean, I don't know. I'm just so giddy that I mean, on my calendar, I actually had, I mean, I'm sounding like a fanboy asshole, but I woke up today and I'm like, I get to actually talk to like Lauren Sapala today. I've talked to her over Messenger, and she's been involved with projects, and she's done me, I mean, you've done me and the press so many solids that it's like, I just, there's an appreciation that I can't, I don't know. There's just such appreciation there that you didn't just slag me. I'm very glad about that. I'm glad that I met you.
I'm glad I could help, honestly. I mean, there's because I work with writers. I'm a writing coach. You know, I teach classes. There's so many people out there that want to do things and are dreaming of doing things and have plans to do things, and they, for whatever reason, can't or don't actually do them. You know, there's so much that holds them back. So for you to put together an anthology, which is a shit ton of work, and I haven't ever put together an anthology, but I put together other events where you have to be in contact with like a bunch of other people, give them a deadline, and you're waiting on shit from them, and you have to get a bio, and you have to talk to the format. It's like so much work. So like that takes a great energy of spirit, and that takes so much strength to do. And I'm just grateful you're doing it. I mean, because at the end of the day, like I know people probably said thank you, but it's also kind of a thankless job. You know, where you do have to deal with people being like, I just need one more week. And you're like, oh, you don't have one more week, bitch, give me your shit, you know? So thank you. Thank you for dealing with all of that and continuing to put out anthologies. Because I think that's valuable. There's so many people out there that are interested in transgressive fiction, don't really know what it is, and don't know where to get started. And an anthology is perfect for that. It's like, just dip your toes in. If you don't like one story, there's 20 more. So it's bringing more people in, writers and readers, and introducing people. It's educating people.
Yeah, I mean, I the reason I started Outcast Press was it was a combination of can I tell you two polar opposite motivations that I have? I'm usually motivated to do something either by rage or because I feel like it deep in my I don't want to say a calling, but it's like it didn't choose like I didn't choose it, but it chose me. So I guess I never set out in life to start a press. Never in my life did I ever. You would ask me 3 to 6 months before, I would have said no. I'm not. It was never a dream of mine. I just got so tired of writing what I was writing and then going to. I get that not every place is going to be my cup of tea. I get that. But if I go to a magazine and they're like, we want edgy, dark fiction, And I'm like, yes, that's what I do. And then at least I'll get a list of caveats. No animal abuse, no rape, no violence against women, no this, no this. It's like, are you a dark magazine? What the fuck do you want? Like, I get if I go to Asimov's science fiction or whatever, and they're not going to want my shit. I'm cool with that. But if you're going to market yourself as edgy, it's no holds barred, motherfucker. It's no like that, you know. And so something snapped in me because somebody sent me. They're like, here, look, you're going to be interested. They want edgy shit, and it was a checklist of no next to everything I write. Now, like, motherfucker. And I was like, it was the last straw for me. Like, it was the last. Like, I'm gonna do this, right? I'm gonna be like, right? I'm not dealing with any of this bullshit, any of this SJW bullshit. I'm not having any fucking caveats. I want you to write stories that will skull fuck me and traumatize me. That's what I want. And so I was motivated in part by rage, but then there was also a compassionate side, which was there's an underserved part of the community, right? Which is like if you tried to pitch stuff, a lot of the stuff that to like the big publishing houses, they're not going to take it. I'm sorry, they're not going to. I think even Chuck Palahniuk had to water some of his stuff down. I think speculation because they're like,
I'm sure.
oh, it's not going to. Well, I mean, the book Haunted, the short stories in the book Haunted.
Oh yeah.
I
love that book. I love the one about the dolls that they get the police people keep checking out.
Yeah, but his editor made them right. But it's basically Chuck had to like construct like this. Oh, they're all on this retreat, this writing retreat. They're all going to tell their stories, and it's like it was so stupid when it should have just been short stories, right? And so I wanted something where it was, I don't want to, and Paige never wants to say to somebody, I don't think this is going too far. We want to say, hey, we think this hasn't gone far enough. Like the car went over the cliff, but it's not on fire yet. Like set it on fire, you know? I really do think people want that. I think that they really do want those really dark, because if at anything, it could make them feel better about themselves. Like when I write a character, I try to, if I'm writing a transgressive character, I want the reader to think, God, I'm fucked up, but I'm not as fucked up as that person, you know? But no, all of that is just to say that you've been very gracious. And in my world, that's a very rare thing. Like how you responded to me, it's not how most people respond. And I think Cody can probably attest it in his world too. That's not how people respond. They just don't. It means a lot, is what I'm saying. More than you know.
Well, I'm always glad to help any way I can. I don't know, I had kind of a really weird childhood, and I think a lot of us have grown up with something happen to us where we were like, maybe I need to make up for the fact that I exist. Maybe it's not fair that I exist, right? Like I carried that as being a kid. I had a younger brother who died when I was 8, and he was 6. He had leukemia. And my mom died of cancer. And so it felt like all the people around me were dying and were sick. And I was just like super healthy. You know what I mean? Like it's a really weird feeling to be like, all of my loved ones are like in and out of the hospital and bedridden and emaciated and like dying of cancer.
Right.
And I'm just like shooting up, like, not, I'm growing out of my clothes, and like I would get cold and stuff. But so I had this thing where I was like, it seems really it doesn't seem right that I won the lotto. You know what I mean? So like I need to make up for that. I mean, that's where it started. So I don't think it's like that now. I don't think now I'm sort of like dysfunctionally trying to make up for my existence. But I do think that's how it started with me. And then I was like, okay, this is okay. Like trying to help wherever I can. It's actually working out pretty well. I'm going to keep doing it. So I kept doing it for years and years. And I'm like, yeah, it's actually really working out. I like this. You know, I still feel weird and I still feel awkward, but I'm like, well, at least I try to help out wherever I can. So it has, I think a lot of people have dysfunctional roots to things like that. The shadow side.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, and I think a lot of people don't recognize the shadow side too. Which, I mean, it's uncomfortable for people to really recognize the capacity within themselves to do horrific things, but you know, yeah, they do. What I was taken aback by with you, and this isn't a criticism by any means, but it was you have you're like a polar, like the world that you live in is very different from mine in the sense of you have like a very optimistic outlook. And when you said that to me, I was taken aback. I'm like, how? I'm always flabbergasted because, and I say that not how, and I say that how because it's like, I have a friend and he had a kind of idyllic life. I get why he's an optimist, but you've been through shit. I mean, you've really been through some shit. So that makes me, there's an incongruency in my thought, which is, how can you be an optimist? Like how can you be so cheery and optimistic? I mean,
whoa. I don't think this covers all of it, but I do think that I do think there's something to it that people are born with different temperaments. Like I've mentioned before that my husband's very like you. And I have a lot of friends who have I would say like a melancholy temperament, right? So my husband's baseline is okay, slightly depressed. Like that's his normal baseline.
That's me on a good day, yeah.
Yeah, that's where like nothing's happened, there's been no triggers. It's like neutral, slight depressed. So if there's a trigger, it can go way down. And then there are like sometimes random spikes of excitement or enthusiasm or something,
And that
right?
feels weird. That feels weird to me when I go over that. When I'm every once in a while, I'll get not depressed, and I'm like, huh? What? What's going on here? And then it feels weird. It feels very weird.
But I think that's a temperament that I think you're born with it. You know, I think things shape it, but I think it's a natural disposition. I think there's also the opposite where you have a natural optimistic. Like I think chemically, I'm naturally optimistic because I can feel it happen in my brain. And it's really weird. Like something bad will happen to me and I will dip into being upset and almost against my will, I start floating back up and I'm like, but it's fine. It's the weirdest fucking shit. It's like my baseline is excited and joyful. Like just excited and like just about like I'll be at the store and I'll be like, well, this is just great. Look at I'm just in the toothpaste aisle. This is like I'm kind of like Rose Nyland from the Golden Girls or something. It's really, really odd. And people have commented on my whole life. They're like, what? Like my husband's always like, you live in Muppet land. He's like, I wish I could see people through your eyes because you probably see Muppets. Like you probably see this like carnival going on, you know? Like he's like, you're crazy. And
No.
I don't know, but I think it's a natural thing.
I got to be honest with you. I don't think you're crazy. I'm jealous. I mean, and not jealous in a vindictive way, but it's just I wish that I could be like that. Because like you just described, you being in the store, me being in the store would be like, I'm like, I got to get away from these fucking people. Like I look at that, look at, I mean, you know, as much as people like to say that they're not judgmental, they're like, look at this dumb fuck, right? Or someone's like, you know, get the. So like when you're in the store, you're like, oh, all happy and cheery. I'm just like, I want to get what I need. I want to get away from these fucking people. That's my first thought is I want to get as far away from these fucking people as possible.
Well, I will say though, I probably do make myself more vulnerable in a lot of ways that other people don't, because anytime I see another human being or I'm approached by a human being, a lot of times I'm like, oh, they want some of my energy and I don't know if I want to give it, but I never assume anyone has ill intent. Like never, unless I get an intuition, which has happened before. I had many years ago, I was walking downtown Seattle at around midnight, and this guy approached me and asked me if I knew what time it was. And this is the weirdest thing, but I saw him leave his body and come towards me to grab me around the throat. And I didn't even think, I just took off like a shot. I just bolted across the street and he lost it. He just started screaming at me and he was like, you fucking bitch, get back here. And I was like, oh, I knew it. I knew he was going to grab me, you know? So I saw it before it happened. So that's happened to me where someone has had ill intent and I've picked up on it really quick, but I don't assume anybody has ill intent for the most part, when people walk up to me, I'm just like, oh, they just need something, or I'm kind of too tired, or what's going on with them? Can I help? But I don't have, I'm not suspicious of anyone is what I'm saying. And maybe like my husband's the exact opposite. He's like, who's walking in front of our house? You know, like the doors need to be locked. Like, who's that? That guy's getting too close to the backyard. And I'm like, I don't know. He's just looking for rocks. Who cares what he's doing?
See, I guess that would be
opposite temperament.
I guess that would be more like I'm more like your husband. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Cody can chime in at any time, but like, I've been burned. I've been burned enough, I guess, where I assume that somebody is a snake oil salesman or woman until proven otherwise, right? And what really solidified that is, do you mind being a little uncomfortable for a minute?
I don't know that I will. I mean, maybe I will, but go for it.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you if you find this funny or not. I've held this back for a while, but since I met this guy through you, or not through you, but because of you, I feel the need to bring it up. For better or worse, do you think suppose you were going to have a book published, okay? And you were on pretty good terms with somebody, and that person messaged your publisher and said, listen, Lauren's bad for you, cut her loose. Do you think that that's a joke? Does that strike you as a joke?
No, I'd be very hurt by that.
Okay, that's Gareth. That's what the fuck Gareth did. Now, I've done nothing, and Cody has done nothing but prop this guy up. I hit him up. And speaking of being late for an anthology, that piece of shit was 2 weeks late for Slut Bomb, and I gave him a pass for that. He messages Cody, okay, and says, and Cody, confirm this, please.
Sure.
Says, Sebastian's bad for you. Cut him loose. Kind of backstab. And then I talked to him. See, here's the other thing that I'll do too. So I hit him up after that, and I said, hey, you're such a good friend. I'm so glad. And out of the blue, he brought up about, oh, it was just a joke. I played dumb. What are you talking about? Oh, about that, cutting you loose. That's a guilty conscience right there. Why the fuck would you bring that up? And then you try to say, oh, it's just a joke. What's the punchline? What's the punchline? You fucking moron. I've done nothing but try to prop you up. I even said good things about Heather. Can we all agree Heather is an overwritten piece of shit? Can we just agree with that? It's overwritten, and it's Gareth trying to be Nabokov. The book sucks, first of all. But I tried to do him a solid, and then he has the fucking audacity, the balls. I've done nothing to him, to go to Cody and say, cut him loose. Fuck you. Fuck you now. Fuck you forever. Outcast is dead to you. So, Gareth, if you're watching, I got a message for you. I don't forgive. I'm not a forgiving person. This is the dark side of me. There's nothing you can say. Now, I would have done more for him. I had plans to do some stuff for him, but you had to fuck around. Try to backstab me. You motherfucker, you. And he's turned on Cody as well. He chose other people over Cody. He goes on his own private channel and says how much he fucking misses Cody, and yet he hasn't contacted Cody. So he fucked over a friend of mine, Cody. You can say, oh, it was a joke all you want. They don't sound like a joke to me. It sounds like he's trying to sabotage me. And it sounds like, right? That's what it sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not that Gareth is watching. He's too busy with his incel shit. You know, if you look at his channel, it's always black pill this and young girl stuff. You know, at a certain point, you have to wonder, right? When somebody's only talking to young girls, right? When they're only making videos about young girls, you have to wonder how far removed Gareth is from the characters he writes at a certain point.
What is black pill?
It's this Zoomer thing of like doom and gloom.
It's a genre?
No, it's some, I don't know. I don't give much thought to it.
No, it's like it's basically like an incel community sort of term.
He's obsessed with it. He's obsessed with this nonsense.
Wait, an incel is I'm celibate. I'm involuntarily celibate.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
Like I'm involuntarily celibate because I have medical problems, or like
because their personality sucks. Okay, so think of like Elliot Rodger. Have you heard of Elliot Rodger?
No.
Okay, an incel is somebody who, shit, I could go on forever. I've got a novelette coming out with Cody where I wrote about, it was from an incel's perspective. It's basically men, mostly young men who want either a relationship or want to get fucked, but they can't. And so, because they don't really have much of a personality. And so it's a kind of a deep hatred of women too. So they try to rectify that with all of these really external means, because they're like, well, I go to the gym like every day. I'm buff. I've got a nice car. I've got a good job. Why don't women just want to blow me 24/7?
Do they self-identify as incel?
Yeah.
So why don't they just like hire a hooker?
That's an awesome question that you'd have to ask them.
I mean, there are lower priced hookers if you can't afford a higher priced hooker.
Listen, I went down incel rabbit holes and it broke my psyche for a while. I mean, Cody's read
I feel like I'm going to go down one when we got off. I'm like,
oh God. Okay.
I actually do have to get off because I have to go pick up my son from school, but I usually sit and wait. I'm going to be like Googling incel stuff now.
Oh God.
This is really interesting.
Think about it like this. Okay, here's how to get into, before you get into the incel mindset, okay? You have to think about it as very internalized capitalism, where everything is where in their mind, everything is transactional. Everything, right, Cody? Like, I bought you dinner, I dress nice, I'm a good catch. And I mean, and if you watch some of the early Elliot Rodger stuff, he talks about, him and other incels will say how they're genetically superior, right? There's a racist undertone as well. There's a notion of entitlement that like women owe them sex because they're fit and they're buff. But here's the thing, like personality doesn't ever seem to enter into the equation. They never say, well, maybe it's because my personality is kind of crappy.
Well, so okay, I'm really interested. Like, what are the rules of being an incel? Is it like say you're like, I'm an incel, I identify as that, I blog about it. and then you have sex once with a woman, like, are you out then? Or is it like, no, it was only once, it won't happen again for a year, I can be back in the scene? Like, at what, do you know what I mean?
People don't want to, I don't think people, there's a subsect of incels that I think is called like MGTOW or whatever, where, no, but if you're an incel, like in the traditional sense of the word incel, like, it's something you don't want. Like, if you go on the incel forums, a lot of them have been shut down, right? There's been a lot of incel violence. There's been a fair amount of like shootings that have been from incels. Like, Google Elliot Rodger, like, he's the incel pro, like, whatever.
Mhm.
No, like, they go on these forums and they try to figure out how not to be incels. So like, there's a huge connection between an incel and like the pickup artist community, right? Where they'll read like The Art of Seduction, or they'll read like Neil Strauss's The Game and be like, what's the mathematical equation for pussy? Like, if I do this and this and this should mean getting my dick sucked. But I did those things and I didn't get a blowjob. Why? So no, it's not about, it's a community defined by resentment, right? And so like, and if you break out of that, right, and you come back to the incel community, you come back as kind of like, oh, I figured it out, guys. Like, you kind of come back as like a messianic figure. Like, there was one message board that I was on where there was a long thread about a guy who was like, oh, I thought I was this and this, and then he went through the steps about, and also they rate everybody like, oh, this woman's a 7, and but she's with a 4. How could that possibly be? Like, but it's not a community, generally speaking, that you embrace. It's one that you kind of, you want to eventually not be an incel, and then you come back and be like, all right, you come back like a tough guy. All right, losers, I'm going to tell you the hard truth. You got to do this, you got to do that, and then you're going to get laid all the time.
I gotta say, I call bullshit on the in part. There's just too many. It's very easy to meet another human being and have sex. Maybe that other human being isn't going to be the perfect 10 that you envision is your fantasy in your head, but you can hire another human being and have all sorts of different experiences there. You can meet other people on Friend Finder or Craigslist, or at a bar.
Listen, this is my complaint, is that it's not that hard to get fucked. But here's another thing about them, is if you watch enough of their stuff, there's magical thinking too, because they don't go out and socialize with women. That's another thing, is like, they expect like a Deus Ex Machina to just come down and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of them they live on the internet. That's the thing too. Like, the internet really kind of gave birth to a rise of this, is like, these guys live on the internet, right? And they externalize all of their problems onto women. You watch enough of these videos and you'll see that for many of them, they never approach a woman. They just never approach a woman. But they just expect to get fucked by some, like, again, it's like they just expect it just to happen. Like, okay, well, I'm working out all the time. I have a great diet.
Mm-hmm.
I have the right haircut. I have nice chiseled cheekbones. I'm a clear 10. But why aren't women just coming up to me offering to blow me?
I just got it. So that's why I'm like smiling and laughing. I just got it.
Okay.
There's a certain kind of guy I've met who doesn't understand that women are just other people.
No,
like they just don't get it. They don't get it that women are just other people.
Nope.
They have smelly armpits, and they have, toenails, and they're grumpy, and they're just other people. They're like, women are like this alien magic species of thing that's like outside of me and above me and punishes me, and they've got like a whole weird thing in their head. That's what and there's women like that who are like that about men, who don't understand that men are just other people. And those women, they're same thing. They can't get a relationship. They're like chasing after a relationship for years. They're like, there's just no one out there. It's like, it's not that hard to shack up with someone. It's just, I mean, you can, if you're picky, then that's you, but it's not hard to just find someone. But they have the same thing where I've talked to them and it's like, no, men are just people. They have bad breath. They get the flu. They're going to annoy you. Like, everybody's just people. That's what's going on. It's like there are some people that don't understand that everyone else is just people.
Yeah, but they don't. Like, and it's very like lecherous. Like, it's a very lecherous mindset for the incels, because like they don't think, like, for example, you can just, well, first of all, they again, they want to come up with this formula, right? And they don't understand, if you're going to listen, it's like anything else in life. If you approach 100 women, you're going to get turned down a lot, just for a multitude of reasons that have nothing to do necessarily with you. But they try to, and again, this is why they hook up with the PUA community, right? Which is like, all right, you gotta, okay, you know, and it's very like manipulative and lecherous and like.
But I
Here's
think
here's
that
the-
they
here's
don't
the
think
right
that they
words
can
to
just
say.
talk to someone and be accepted for them. They're like, I think they're like, that's an impossibility that I could just talk to someone and just be myself and the person would like me and we might connect. Like, that doesn't exist for them. Maybe like their mom did weird shit to them or their dad did weird shit. Like, maybe they got fucked up where they were like, it's just having a like normal, okay connection with another person. That's not real. I don't know. That's all I can, because you don't need to go through all the manipulation with other, like, some people you're just not going to like. Some people you are going to like connect with and be like, they are manipulative or they are whatever. But other people you're not. You're going to be like, this is cool. We're friends and it's good. But the incel people, like, they probably don't have just friends either. I would assume just regular normal friends.
Not really, but the PUA community is big. Cody, you can testify to this. I mean, you've read Neil Strauss's The Game. Like, this is huge, like huge, respectively, in the sense of like people have gotten obscenely wealthy by telling other people a kind of a warped self-help of how to get laid. And I mean, even as much as I like Robert Greene, he's got his book, The Art of Seduction, right? Which is good, and I will use it probably as a reference point for pieces I write for how to, like, if I want like a but it's very lecherous. It's very right, Cody, you would agree. Even Robert Greene's book, which is good, it's it's a bit creepy.
Well, sorry, go ahead, Cody.
No, it's fine. Go ahead. I don't really want to add much to that.
Well, I was just gonna say, when you start a relationship, when you start any human connection with trying to manipulate the person to connect with you, it's not gonna work. It's gonna blow up in your face, or they're gonna be manipulative themselves, or it's gonna fall apart. You know what I mean? It's like, if you go into any human interaction like you're Charles Manson and you're recruiting, you're going to end up attracting the squeakies and the Susan Atkins. Like, you're going to end up attracting the people who, like, that's how they connect too. They connect through manipulation and feeling exploited and feeling abused and alienated. Like, it just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that's the thing that people miss when you have sex. Well, maybe not just totally casual sex, but if you have a sexual relationship with someone or a romantic relationship or a marriage, it's just another degree of friendship. That's all it is. It's just a deeper degree of friendship. Like, if you're married to someone and it's going to work, they're just going to be a really, really good friend. You know? If you have a romantic relationship with someone and it works and it doesn't fall apart, they're going to be a really good friend. And that has to be there. If you actually don't feel safe with the person and you don't feel like they really know you, and you can actually say your honest shit to them and they're not going to freak out and run out the door. And then I'm like, and why would you want any kind of relationship with another human that's not like that? Like, I don't know. I mean, I don't think at the end of it all, Charles Manson really felt, maybe he did. Maybe he was happy with the way things were. But I don't know. I mean, I'm really into the Manson family. That's why I'm using that example. But I feel like I would have these days where I would look around at like all these people surrounding me, and I'd be like, how did I get here with like fucking crazy ass Squeaky over here and Sandy, and someone might shank me in the night. I don't know. These people are fucking nuts. That's where I feel like you're gonna get if you're like, I'm pickup artisting my way through life.
Okay.
And to be fair, I think that was the conclusion that Neil Strauss actually came to. Like his right, Cody. Like if you read his later stuff, he kind of moved away from that because he started out doing it like a journalistic piece, and then like a lot of the people in his book, The Game, like the one guy, Mystery, he was like fucking hooked on drugs, and because a lot of it's real empty. And I mean, if you have any kind of a conscience, I mean, there's also like risk. How do I say it? Going back to your energy point, it's like, wow, this is a lot of energy just to try to bang someone who the incels would call like a 10, right? Like that's a lot of energy. And then eventually you reach a point, it's like, what am I doing? Like what am I doing?
Yeah, I think if they're looking outside themselves and they're rating everyone as like that person's a 10,
that's what they do.
And then they're rating themselves.
Yep.
And so they're like, I'm not good enough as I am. I'm inadequate. I'm a piece of shit. And so they're projecting that outwards. Like that's what is repelling people. Because people are like, oh, that person's full of like this weird self-loathing and self-hatred and rage. And they're like, they've turned it inwards, but they're also kind of like throwing it outwards at everyone. And like, no, I don't want your penis inside me. Like you need some hardcore therapy, Even then though, like you don't need to be perfect or perfectly healed to have sex. Like there are lots and lots of women out there that are really into deeply damaged men. I'm one of them. So like we're here. Don't go incel. That's my PSA. Don't go incel, guys. It's not a good path.
Ladies, I'm deeply damaged. If there's a law, come, fine, I'm here. This is a joke.
Well, no, women really do. I mean, I can't speak for all women, but a lot of women really do love deeply damaged men. I've always loved deeply damaged men because they're interesting. Like even the incel, like I'm like, oh, I'm gonna look this up because I want to know, like, why do you feel that way and what happened to you and what went into this and like there's a story here. That's more interesting than like someone who's like super average, really run of the mill, nothing's ever happened to them.
See,
they call those normies.
See, like my confession is like, I feel almost bad subjecting a woman to me, if that makes sense, because it's just like I'm so, I don't know, like I feel. Have you ever seen the show True Detective season 1?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I feel. I mean, somebody once said that I was like Matthew McConaughey's character, Russ Cole.
He's my favorite.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
Okay. Of course, without the badassery and the like awesomeness, right? But he had a thing where he's like, I think I'm bad for people. Like I bring them down. Like I guess that's the part of me that's like, you talk to me long enough, which you have, and it's like, I almost feel bad. I feel bad about having some like really nice. That's why like with you, I kind of in a way when I talk to you, sometimes I almost feel bad. I remember I sent you one message recently, and I was like, God, I'm really bringing someone down, right? I think I talked about cosmic insignificance and how we're all nothings, and I'm just like, fuck, like, so I don't know. I think there's a point where I kind of get this feeling of like, I don't want to bring people down, and it's almost better. And it's like what Russ Cole said too, which is like, maybe I'm not good for people. Maybe I just bring them down.
I see you're getting that, but at the same time, that's making a lot of assumptions on another person's behalf. You know, like when I got your email about like, oh my God, it's an uncaring void. And, you know, I was like, yeah, that's Sebastian. Like, that's total Sebastian right there. But that's you. That was really you. If you had sent me an email and you were like, well, maybe things aren't so bad, I'm going to look on the bright side. I'd be like, he's either drinking or he's being some like weird false version of himself because he doesn't feel comfortable with me. But either way, like, it's weird. Like, I would rather you just be you. And if it's not a match for me, like, we wouldn't have become friends. So that's trusting other people too, of like, I'm just going to be what I really honestly am.
Mhm.
And if I'm not their cup of tea, if I'm not a match for them, I'm going to assume that they are grown up enough to like part ways with me. They can go find someone else. If they stick around, then they're in for it for whatever reason. And I don't know what that reason is. Like, I have a very good friend. She is, she's about 8 years younger than me. It was like 10 years ago. She was in her 20s, real cute, big boobs, big smiley, bubbly chick. She's kind of half crazy. She went through a period of 5 years where she was only attracted to Asian men over the age of 70 with flat asses and small penises and liver spots. That was the only type she wanted to have sex with. That was her thing. She goes through these phases. She's very unconventional. And you know what? The men she found were happy to have her. They weren't like, I think she could do better than me. I'm going to say no to this because what does she know? They were just like, yes, come ride my small penis, you happy white girl, you know? And so, like, that's what sometimes you gotta just assume the other person knows what they want. And what they want is you. And you don't get it, but that's what they want. And say yes to it. Take the ride.
Literally, in that case.
She went through a lot of phases like that. Like, for a while, she was only meeting Russian men in warehouses off Craigslist. She's a very unconventional person. She is full of passion for life. And she likes like different types of men at different times of her life.
Cody, we got to get her on the podcast.
I was about
Hey,
to say
can
that.
you tell her? I want to talk to her more. These two stories sold me. She sounds fascinating. Tell her to get in touch with either me or Cody. I want to probe deeper. This is fascinating now.
She's like me. She is a very like optimistic person where she's just always happy. She does really crazy shit. But that's what I mean. And a lot of times she has approached a man and he's had such low self-esteem that he said no, you know, and it's like in Zorba the Greek. I don't know if you guys have read that. But Zorba the Greek, at one point, he says to say no to a woman who wants to make love to you is, you know, incurring the wrath of God. Like, that's a slap in the face to God. Like, say yes. If the woman shows up, don't question it. She sees something in you. You don't need to know what it is.
It's a good way to live.
Well, do you want to know the flip side of that, though, is?
She might have crabs.
The flip side of that is there was a true story about a woman who organized an orgy. Sounds awesome, doesn't it?
Well, I need more details.
Well, but on the surface, it sounds awesome. Okay. One of the guys that she banged ended up dead, cardiac arrest. Here's what she did. She bought a bunch of tobacco and distilled the boiling process, right? Distilled, highly concentrated, just the nicotine. So, I mean, obviously I smoke, I mean, right? Nicotine, it raises the heart rate, but it's not a direct poison because it's absorbed through the lungs and it's not in high dose. And high doses is going to give you cardiac. She lined the inside of the condom with the nicotine. The nicotine absorbed into the guy's penis, and so while she was fucking him, he had went into cardiac arrest. So I don't know if a woman just showing up wanting to fuck you is gonna always, you shouldn't question it.
Okay,
See,
this
that
is
just that
true.
just stems from my but that just stems from my innate suspicion of anybody, right? I guess.
You know, it's so funny
Both
because
of
I had this same argument with my husband where I was like, yeah, I told him everything I told you. And he said, well, I read this story about a guy who was getting head from a hooker and, you know, or no, a guy was giving head to a hooker and she just reached down and shot him in the head. So I was
There
like,
you go.
so you guys, again, are on the same wavelength.
Cody, you were gonna say something. You've been quiet this whole time. That's a shame. We
Yeah, I
gotta
was
get
gonna
you
say.
in.
I was gonna say. I don't know. It seems worth it still to me. I don't care.
It seems what?
It seems worth it still.
It seems worth it
Yeah,
still.
cost benefit analysis is.
Well, going down on a woman. I don't know. I mean, I guess you wouldn't know. You wouldn't even know what happened. Right? I would just
You'd go out doing what you love.
On that note, I should let you guys go because I have to go pick up my son from school.
Okay, on that note too, can I just say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
it's been wonderful, and we would love. I mean, I don't want to speak for Cody, but I bet he's on the same sentiment. Do you want to come back on again?
Yeah, I'd love to. It might be like end of summer. I just have a really packed, and
That's
I
fine.
want to say, you guys, I'm sorry. I'm always a workaholic, and every time one of you contacts me, I'm like, give me a couple months. Ah.
No. We know you have many fish in the fry, or however the metaphor goes. I get that, but no, this has been wonderful. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Apologize to the audience for maybe some unhinged rants that I went on, but it's just what I do sometimes. But
It happens.
just everybody go out, get Lauren's books, subscribe to her newsletter. As you've seen, she's an awesome person. Like, she can deal with me, so like, obviously, I mean, she's fucking tip top. I mean, come on. So
Well, and if you guys ever need anything, let me know. Like, just give me kind of a heads up, like when you need it by. Like, give me like 2 weeks to a month, and I'll work it
yeah,
in somewhere, whatever it is.
you and Outcast, we have a thing planned for the middle of
For June.
for June. Yeah, so that'll be pretty neat that we're gonna work out. So again, very gracious human being. So yeah, I won't keep you any longer. I could just talk to you for hours because you're so fucking awesome. But
Very
yeah, you
cool.
got to go pick up your kid and all of that. So
Yeah.
thank you for being on, and thank you for being who you are. Just
Yeah, thanks
I
for being
feel
genuine
yeah,
person.
I feel better already. Just talking to you, I just feel better about myself, I guess.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that I could help in any way. And seriously, email me anytime if you're just like, I'm having a bad day and the cosmos is a cruel and caring void. And I just had to tell someone that. I will receive it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Cody.
Yeah.
And
All
Cody,
right.
buy your books today.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Hope you like it.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
Yeah. Take it easy, Lauren.
Have a good night.